but really, my success after really is what it comes down to is mindset. And it all started, I was delivering pizzas and read Think and Grow Rich, and my whole life changed. So,
Yeah.
so basically, I went from a pizza driver to $10 million in sales and pizzas.
Good for
And
you.
and I started the podcast, and I thought the podcast was going to be tips, tactics, small business stuff. And really, as I started bringing guests on, it goes, they're successful guests in their own right, and it all comes back to mindset. So, being a student of mindset, the podcast has really shifted to being about small businesses and successful mindset tactics. Really, is what it comes down to, and how important mindset is. So, when
Yes.
when Jason said, he was able to listen in and produce the show with Sarah, and he said how great, the conversation was, and how you've been a student of mindset and a teacher of it. I thought this would be perfect. So just to give you a
Yeah.
little, background on where I think this could go.
Yeah. And so I'll challenge you to ask me any question. I have no notes. I'm live. I'm visceral. I'm from the heart, and I challenge you to trip me up. I don't think you can. I am a big believer in Napoleon Hill. I've read the book 144 times, and I used that book to, I was, 1998, 2 years after my father died, I was bankruptcy imminent as a company, and was very bad. If I thought I knew much, if I thought I knew as much as if I knew as much as I thought I knew when my dad died, I would have been pretty darn smart. Proceeded to run the business from a very arrogant, I know everything type of a methodology, and ended up bankruptcy imminent. And so I had this book, Think and Grow Rich. I was reading it, but I wasn't executing it. And so I was so desperate. I said, okay, Napoleon, you're my coach. Tell me what to do. And I did exactly what he told me to do via the book. And that's where the Jim Shorkey Family Auto Group went from one dealership, 40 employees selling about 800 cars a year, to when I left, it was 6 dealerships, probably, I don't know the exact number, 400 employees selling probably around 6,000 cars a year. And today that same group, I'm gone. I have my children own and operate the business now, but they're probably going to sell 20,000 cars this year, 20,000 cars, if you can imagine that. And it's now 12 dealerships. So it's just an incredible journey. But the bottom line is Napoleon Hill. I have the book here. I call it my operator's manual. And so I did exactly what he told me to do, and it worked. And so I just kept doing it. That's the long and short of it. So yeah, I know the book well, to say the least.
Great. Would you mind giving the listeners just a real quick 411 on who you are and what brought you to the show today?
Well, I'm Jim Shorkey. I was the former owner and operator of the Jim Shorkey Family Auto Group, retired in 2016. And I was very fortunate, had a lot of great mentors along the way, and always had this vision of someday I wanted to launch this concept called, this mentorship type concept, give a woman a fish she eats for a day, teach her how to fish she eats for a lifetime. And so my methodology in this form is to teach people how to fish, male, female, young, old, doesn't matter. And so we started this company called Results from Thinking, because we really do believe that everything starts with our thinking, but we also need to measure results. And so what are the results? And if I don't like the results, I go back and look at my thinking, and I have to change my thinking. If I have A thinking, I'm going to get A results. If I have B thinking, I get B results. So anyways, started this company, Results from Thinking. We have an online personal development course that we developed that is called Rethink You. Based on that same idea, we got to go from A thinking to B thinking. So you got to rethink you. And so it's a video workbook, really well thought out, well designed course that a person can take online to change their lives. And that's really what we're here to do at Results from Thinking, is to change people's lives in a fashion similar to how my life was changed based on this leadership idea called mentoring. I had great mentors, and so I give them all the credit in the world. I didn't do this alone. And so here we are, Results from Thinking. The reason I'm here is, I'm very big on talking to people and giving them ideas. And so that led me to Sarah Macon of Macon Wellness, and Sarah Macon of Macon Wellness led me to Jason. Jason, am I pronouncing your name properly? Chacon, am I saying that correctly?
You nailed it. That's perfect.
Good. So that led me to Jason, and now that leads me to you, Nick. And so I'm here because I was asked to be here, and I'm so happy and grateful to be here. So, well, that's your answer. That's a long answer to a short question.
No, that's good. That's great. And I think what I was so excited about is, I always take a lot of pride in the fact that I've read Think and Grow Rich in the 20s about 22 times. And then Jason said we had Jim on Sarah's show, and he's read it 144 times.
Yep.
And I said, well, I've got to have him on the show. I think this could be a fantastic conversation about the book that changed my life. And I'm sure the book, all written up and notes everywhere, right?
This one's been retired, because I take so many notes in the book and highlights. And it's like, I always say this, Nick, the hand that picks up the book is not the same hand that puts the book down. And so that's why you keep reading it, because you change. If you do what Napoleon Hill tells you to do, you change. And so you'll read the book for the 142nd time, and it's like, I don't remember ever reading this before. Like, what is this? Like, wow, that's really a cool idea. I never read that before. Yeah. And I actually will look at the book and say, is this the same book? Yeah, it's the same book. But it's like the hand that picks up the book is not the same hand that puts it down. That's why you keep reading it. It is an operator's manual for how to run this thing called the human body. And I really believe that. So that's that's why I kept reading it, because it kept working out. I didn't want to go back to failure. So I just kept reading it, kept working, kept reading it, kept working it, I kept working, excuse me. And I never wanted to go back to that failure stuff. That was no fun. That was not fun. So, yeah.
And you talked a little bit about how your sons and daughters have taken your dealerships now and have really grown them again. Did you teach them a lot of the principles from the book growing up as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the main principle of the book, the absolute, if I were to say, okay, pick one thing out of that book that's the main principle, it's called seek expert counsel. Find somebody who's smarter than you and have a conversation. That said, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Get out of that room. You want to be you want to be the dumbest person in the room, because that's how you learn. So you want to be around, if you want to be rich, get around rich people. If you're the richest person in the room, now you're a mentor. You're not going to learn anything. You're going to be a mentor, which is fine. Those groups are important as well. But I taught my kids to get around smart people. And so they're involved in multiple think tanks where they really do learn from these, whatever it is they're trying to learn. Obviously, it's the car business and the automobile business, but within that business, there's people that are experts on the service business, the fixing of cars business. There's people that are body shop experts. There's people that are parts department experts. There's people that are financial experts and accounting experts. There's people, my son's involved in an accounting group, and so on and on and on. But the main principle of Think and Grow Rich is seek expert counsel. Find somebody who's smarter than you, have a conversation, and then take notes, and here it is right now. I mean, I can't make this stuff up, guys. I can't make it up. I'm 22 years old, healthy. So I'm studying this book here called The New Rules of Aging Well. And so here's the book, and here's the way I read the book. You can see the same pattern. Here it is, just like Think and Grow Rich, right? And so I'm doing that, and then here's my notes. And so these are disciplines. And so it's telling me to do certain things to age successfully. And so I'm in that project right now. Well, my kids are doing the same thing. They want to, improve the accounting department. So they go and get expert counsel. They take the notes. They get into exit. So thinking's great, right? Thinking is great, and that's important. But that's just the starting point. You got to take those thoughts and turn those into disciplines, and you got to take those disciplines and act on them. And it's the actions that produce the results. People have that idea wrong in a lot of cases. Like, well, if I think about it, I'm going to get the right results. No, absolutely not. You only get results based on actions. Good actions, good results. Bad actions, bad results. So to answer your question, these are questions that need to be unbundled. But to answer your question, that's probably the greatest principle I've taught my kids, is to seek expert counsel and then execute the advice that you're given from expert counsel. And that's why the business, since I left in roughly 2016, 2015, 16, it's literally twice as big as it was when I was operating, actually north of that. So yeah, they're absolutely following the Napoleon Hill principles, which go beyond just seek expert counsel. But that's my one big takeaway. But there's a lot more to it than that, which would take probably another hour-long podcast for me to share with you what I think about Think and Grow Rich and how it works. But you ask the questions, I'll answer them to the best of my ability.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think you're absolutely right that every time you read it, you get different stuff out of it because you're at a different point in your life. And I know for myself, I usually pick it up almost more like different times throughout the year. I find myself that, when it's a time in the winter where it's like, oh, I'm going to reread it, or, maybe no particular reason. But last year when COVID hit the business, I said, the first thing I did was pick up the book.
Good for you, man.
And I just went back to like the stuff that got me here in the first place. I said, that's, I picked it up, I read it, and I did a little bit more of like, usually when I read it, it could be a good month or 2 months. Like I really take my time and read through it, but I made sure, I don't want to say I read it in a day, but I took a little bit more time, read it maybe in 2 or 3 weeks, just to make sure I was absorbing it. And then I found myself rereading it again in June. So it was like one of those things that, you have to go back to your roots. And I think the part that that kind of stuck out to me the last time I read it was, the desire, right in the beginning when it's talking about how much desire, you have to have the right reason why, and to really go after the desire part of it. Can you talk about how important that is? It's right in the front of the book too. Like,
well, just remember, this is an operator's manual for your life, and so the principles are in order of importance. Let's be clear about that. So desire is number one. And Napoleon Hill tells you very clearly in the book that desire backed by faith knows no such word as impossible. So I'll repeat that. Desire backed by faith knows no such word as impossible. And so how do you turn impossible into possible? Well, you have to grow your desire, okay? And you have to grow your faith. And this is not a spiritual faith. This is faith in Jim Shorkey. This is, I can do this, right? And so the process, so principle number one is desire, principle number two is faith. Principle number three is auto-suggestion, which is the keystone to the arch of this philosophy. And so ironically, it is the shortest chapter in the book, but it is the most important chapter in the book. And so auto-suggestion comes down to 7 things, okay? What are you reading, okay? What are you reading, right? What are you reading? What are you listening to, okay? What are you watching? What are you viewing? What are you writing? What are you writing? This is writing. So I'm writing and I'm reading, right? What are you saying to Jim Shorkey? Self-talk, right? I'm a big believer in affirmations, and also in the chapter on desire, step number 6, you're supposed to have this well-designed statement that you read out loud every single morning and every single evening. And this is auto-suggestion, right? So I'll repeat that. What are you reading? What are you writing? What are you listening to? What are you viewing? And what are you saying to yourself? And then the last 2 are, who are you hanging out with? So if you want to be rich, you have to hang out with rich people. If you want to be healthy, you have to hang out with healthy people. That's auto-suggestion. And then lastly is actions. And it's very clear that the actions, like if you want to be healthy, but you're taking unhealthy actions, if you want to be wealthy, but you're taking unwealthy actions, then it's not going to work, right? Actions are the name of the game to produce the results that you want. Good actions, good results, bad actions, bad results. So you look at that chapter on auto-suggestion, he makes it very clear in that chapter that you're supposed to read that chapter out loud every night until you really get this idea. And you're supposed to underscore with a pencil every single, word, every single sentence that makes an impact on your thinking about auto-suggestion. So here is my, and again, this book is retired, admittedly, but this is my auto-suggestion, okay? It's almost funny, like, what didn't I underline? That's the next 2 pages. And look at the notes, that's the next 2 pages, right? and this is so important, right? That's the next 2 pages. It's the shortest chapter in the book, but you're supposed to read this thing out loud every night with a lot of emotion. And here's what he says. Again, I'm bankruptcy imminent, right? So, and I'm reading this. It's like, follow the foregoing instruction to the letter, and it will open the way for a complete understanding and mastery of the principles of success. And I had that underlined and circled and inked out and everything. And anyways, so I did that. And it was like, did I believe in Think and Grow Rich? I did not. Did I believe it was going to work? I did not. But what I did was I did what Napoleon Hill told me to do. And unbeknownst to me, because I was doing this process called Think and Grow Rich, unbeknownst to me, my desire began to grow. And my faith in Jim Shorkey began to grow. And all of a sudden it was like, I'm bankruptcy imminent and I want to get out of this. That's impossible, Jim. You can't do this. Well, I started to believe that I could. And I started it with the expert council to implement the procedures that were good and to eliminate the procedures that were bad, which I had so many procedures, so many actions that were bad that were leading me to bankruptcy imminent, and so many actions that I should have been doing that I wasn't doing that were preventing me from getting out of bankruptcy imminent. So I started to do what I was told to do by this guy here, and I moved away. I could see it happening. And so if you can imagine that, you're bankruptcy imminent, like, okay, I'm moving away from this. This is my dad's business. He ran it for 22 years. His legacy is going down the toilet because I'm an idiot. And it's like, I'm moving away from it. Like, okay, there's some hope here. And so the confidence grew. And I'm moving away better. Oh, now I'm going 2 mile an hour. Now I'm going 3 mile an hour. Now I'm going 10 miles. Now I'm going 55 miles per hour. Man, I'm feeling good about this. What would you have done? Would you have stopped reading it? Or would you have said, well, heck, that felt so terrible. Bankruptcy imminent. I'm not going to do that. I'm done with that, right? So I just kept doing it, and I kept doing it. It kept working. It always worked. So yeah, desire is number 1. Faith is number 2. And actually Napoleon Hill would actually, if you were talking to him directly right now, what he would say to you is that he actually would say desire is not number 1. He would say desire is number 1, faith is number 1. So those are number 1. They're equally important, right? Desire backed by faith. There's no such word as impossible. And the how to is auto suggestion. How do I grow my desire? How do I grow my faith? Via auto suggestion. And it's amazing when you double down on that, whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. It is a formula that is just unquestioned. So again, these are long answers to short questions, but it has to be unpacked. It's very, very involved.
It is. And I think, that's where I think a lot of times young entrepreneurs or young businessmen, they try to figure out, is it just hard work or what really is it that can make them successful? And I really think it's a mix. You got to put the action in, but you have to be thinking right. And that's the whole thing until you start to really reprogram your brain, because a lot of times you're conditioned growing up. And, if you're in a household where, money's bad and we never have enough money, or you're talked down to and told that you're stupid or whatever it may be, you bring home a report card with a C and you're told by your parents you're stupid, you start to believe this stuff. And it's right. And at a certain point, when you start to go out on your own, you have to really recondition yourself. And that was where I felt like it was a really important book to recondition myself. And the other part was, I didn't really know the answer of how I was going to do anything, and that's where the blind faith part comes in too, that you visualize and really hold on to what you want, but don't worry about the how, because it just shows up. And I think that's the part of the book that I think has really, really hit me, because when stuff does show up in your life, it's really special. You're like, I never, sure I was visualizing it, but I never really imagined it would happen this way. Have you had times in your life where stuff just showed up that you didn't think,
you and I are probably going to disagree on that idea, and that's fine. Everybody has their thoughts about it, and I would not ever want to change your thoughts in that regard. But if you, again, reading the book like I've read it, so there is the chapter on imagination, and Napoleon Hill talks about there's 2 aspects of imagination. One is the synthetic imagination, and 2 is the creative imagination. And so the creative imagination is the, quote, law of attraction and that kind of a thing. And, things come your way and all this kind of stuff. And that's clear. He explains it and I get it, but he makes it very, very clear. And I would recommend everybody that listens to this go back and look at that chapter. It makes it very clear that the synthetic imagination is, first of all, it's all the knowledge that is presently out there in the world, in the universe, right? All the knowledge is out there right now. Whether it be about making pizzas or about selling cars, whatever the case may be, all that knowledge, whatever it is you're pursuing, the knowledge that's out there is called the synthetic imagination. And he makes it very clear in that chapter that you are not supposed to go beyond the synthetic imagination until you run out of that synthetic imagination. Even to the point of, he talks about inventors, and he said inventors always use the available information. If they can't solve the invention with that synthetic imagination, then they've got to go to the creative imagination because the knowledge isn't there for them. And that's a guy like Edison or whoever. Now Jim Shorkey, listen, I'm not an inventor. I never invented anything. I never invented a light bulb. I never did. So I'm not an inventor. I'm not a creator. And this is a very challenging question because what I believe and what I've known is that trial and error is a recipe for disaster. So I never, ever, ever do trial and error. Why? The trials take way too long and the errors can be devastating. The errors can put you out of business. The errors can kill you depending on what it is that you're pursuing. So I do not do trial and error. What I do is I find somebody who has already done what I've done. I find somebody who has already done what I want to do. And that's the synthetic imagination. So it could be, don't forget, this could be via a book. So I have this book here and I want to age successfully. And it says the new rules of aging well. Well, this book came as one of my favorite people that I like to listen to and read is Dr. David Perlmutter. And he says, he recommends this book and it's the new rules of aging well, which is what I want, right? So I get the book and now I have my list. And so the idea would be just like with back when I was bankruptcy imminent, if I do these things that I'm going to age very successfully, which I'm 64 years old. My goal is to live to be 122 years old, healthy, happy, terrific years. Why do I have that number? Because it's been done. It's been done. It actually, if you look it up, it has been done. Jean Calamu. So, okay, back to the faith, if she can do it, Jim Shorkey can do it. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to live to be 122. I would never want to imply that, but I'm going to take my best shot. And so stuff like this is my best shot. So, so back to the idea of things showing up. I'm going to make things show up based on seek expert counsel, figure out what that to-do list is, right? And then figure out what that to not do list is. I'm going to execute both lists based on expert counsel, and I'm going to generate the results that I want to generate. And that being said, that recipe, the idea is that the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, right? A circuitous line takes way longer. It might take you, if you do a circuitous route to get from point A to point B, it might take you twice as long. So that straight line for me is to seek expert counsel, get the information that they have. In other words, copy. So the show up thing would be, in my mind at least, would be trial and error. And my methodology is to copy. And so with that in mind, I can achieve success much agaster than the trial and error method. So I know that that's kind of a tricky question. And again, I don't want to talk you in or out of anything, but you asked the question and I have to be frank with you that I'm not a big believer. Like when you say that the how-to seems to happen, again, back to your original point, you had made a great point. So in the book, desire, right? That's number one. So the first part of this is figuring out what it is that you want, right? You got to be, Napoleon Hill makes this very clear. You got to be crystal clear, specific, definite, exact. What do you want? And so I've added to that from my experience. I also am a big believer in figuring out what I don't want. I don't want this. And so I look at the point of view of what I want, and I get that, and then also what I don't want. And I think that I ponder that, right? I don't want this particular illness, or I don't want this particular bank situation, or I don't want this particular love situation. So I ponder both, and then I seek ears for counsel to figure out what can I do to get away from what I don't want, and what can I'm sorry, cancel that. So what do I want? What do I not want? And then my reasons why. If my reasons why don't make me cry, I'm on the wrong path. So my reasons why got to make me very emotional. They got to make me cry, right? So I have very, very strong reasons why I want to live to be 122, and we don't have time for that. But let's just say that I do. Well, now I seek expert counsel, which again is right here, to find out what the disciplines are that I have to execute, right? And so I'm a big believer in preempting versus waiting, right? So I'm going to preempt this information, and I'm just going to go for it, right? I'm going to go for this list of to-dos and to-not-dos, and I'm going to make it happen to the degree of being very, very healthy today, and being very, very healthy tomorrow, and being very, very healthy this week, and being very, very healthy this month, and being very, very healthy the next 6 months and the next year. And now I'm looking, and I'm 64, so I'm looking 10 years into the future. I'm 74. And when you and I do this podcast and I'm 74 years old, I want to have a good brain. I want to have a good body. I want my circulatory system to be working really, really well. I want my liver to be working really well. So you see where I'm going with that? So I'm going to be out in front of it, preempting it, not waiting for stuff to show up. I'm going to make it show up. And that sounds like, well, maybe that's the law of attraction. No, it's the law of action. It's Jim Shorkey did this list, and I'm healthy because of it, or I'm wealthy because of it, or I've been married for 41 years. I've got great love. And so I'm happy about that, but it's because of the actions I took yesterday and a year ago, and et cetera. So, we're going to agree a lot more than we disagree. But I'm definitely not going to wait for things to show up. I'm going to take action, and I'm going to make it happen. That's one thing I don't do. I don't do trial and error. So,
well, I think, maybe I said it wrong from the beginning, but when it's not so much show up of like, hey, if you sit there and you think about an elephant, all of a sudden an elephant shows up in your room. It's more like,
I hope not, because I love elephants, but I don't want one in my bedroom, man.
Absolutely. I guess my point is, there was a time where you're absolutely right about the action. I think that it's so important to say before I say anything else. Like, a lot of people will see and hear about law of attraction, and they'll start to think that you can just think things and it's going to show up. You can sit on your couch all day and sit on your butt, and you're absolutely right. It cannot, and the things that I would do is, I would take action. Like I didn't have the money to buy the first restaurant. And this is kind of my point. Like I knew that was going to have my first restaurant, but I had no idea how I was going to buy it, like how I was physically going to pay for it. But what I did was I started walking to pizza shops and say, hey, sell me your pizza shop. And the first 4 guys told me to get the hell out. The 5th guy said, my buddy has a shop for sale 10 minutes from here. So when I walked in, everything was perfect except for it was a bar, and I was looking for a pizza shop. But I walked in the back, full pizza kitchen, everything we needed. We sat down. He told me the price. It was $185,000. I had about $500 in my pocket, and a car with 3 donuts on it. The windows wouldn't go up, but I had been working 90 hours a week. I had 16 years of experience in the industry, and I pitched that to him, and I said, okay, I want to buy it, but you tell me how I'm going to pay for it now. And he was like, well, what do you mean? You don't, you want it for the price, but you don't have the money. And I was like, yeah, but I want to, I said, this is all my experience. And he said, all right, you're the right guy. Why don't you run it for 9 months in my name and save up everything you can in 9 months, hand that to me as a down payment, and I'll finance you for the rest for the next 5 years. So there was a lot of action that I put in to get to that point.
Absolutely.
But I could have never imagined the deal, of how that would, if I would have worried about like what was holding me back before that was I would keep worrying about the money. Oh, how am I going to pay for this? How would I come up with money to have my own business? I can't get the money. I don't know how to get the money. I just said, I guess for better lack of term, screw it. I'm not going to worry about the money.
Yeah, yeah, but again, where I'm going to disagree with you, I'm going to give you all the credit in the world. That's not show up. That's not show up. It didn't
Right.
show up. You were told no. You were
Right.
told no. You were told no. Okay, so you're going to knock on 100 doors to get I'm sorry, you're going to knock on 10 doors to get a yes. All right, I'm going to knock on 10 doors. Or you might find out you're going to knock on 50. Okay, I'm going to knock on 50. That's where the
Right.
desire comes in. Or I can knock on 100, but you kept knocking. And then you found this opportunity. You found this opportunity. It did not show up. You kept knocking. And then you went in and you sold action. Everything's action, right? You sold this fellow on what your capabilities are and what you could do. And he trusted you based on your presentation, right? And really what you did. And so this can get really, really involved, but what you did. So I do not believe in the law of attraction, but I do believe in the law of personal attraction. So the question becomes, what can I do? What can Jim Shorkey do to become an attractive personality? Once I become an attractive personality, people are attracted to me. So you went into that business and you were attracted to the fellow that you were talking to. You created that. That wasn't any kind of law of attraction, or that wasn't Saturn sending you good stuff. That's all. No, you were attracted to that individual. You fought the fight. You did the things. Give yourself credit for that. Nothing showed up. You showed up. That's what happened. It wasn't something that showed up. You showed up, and you did a great job, and you convinced that fellow. But then you're a man of integrity, so you did exactly. I don't even have to ask this question. I know you did exactly what he asked you to do. You handed him some money, and then you paid him off over a period of time. That's called free enterprise, and there's a word for that. And I hope you know it. Maybe you don't, but I'll give it to you right now. It's called OPM. OPM. It is a recipe for getting rich. OPM stands for other people's money, and that is the beauty of the free enterprise capitalistic system, is that you took advantage of another person's money to grow your wealth, and you can still do that today. You may not need to because you're hitting out of the park, got all kinds of money in the bank, you're good, but still OPM. Every young person out there needs to understand the value of other people's money in the pursuit of creating wealth. So back to the $185,000 story. Great story, by the way, great story. So you have that's $185,000. That represented OPM. And so you took that OPM and you used that. You think about it. Really think about this. You used his money to buy his own business. That's OPM. And so and you did exactly what you're supposed to do. You ended up owning that business. That's a beautiful story. That is creation, by the way. You created that. But it's not show up. It's you busted your butt. And I guarantee you, I know, I've watched your videos, by the way. I know that you busted your freaking butt for the next how many years to get that business paid off. You busted your butt because desire backed by faith, there's no such word as impossible. And you did it. And so here you are today. So don't give credit to anybody else for that. Only give credit to yourself and your team. You did it. Probably you need to give a lot of credit to your wife and the fellow that took a shot at you, but don't give that to some kind of an external thing that you did it. So that's where I'm going to fight you on that one. Maybe I will convert you. I'm going to kick your butt every time you say no, you did it, man. I'm giving you credit, brother.
No, I appreciate that. I got a lot of stories that like things happen that I guess maybe, I was visualizing certain things and then they happened, but they didn't just happen. And I say it casually like that. And I appreciate you backing me up and saying, no, you worked for it. You earned it. You took a lot of action to get there, and I think even, and then I think it's important that when you get in a deal like that, I did one better, we paid it off in 3 years rather than paid it off in 5 years. Like
beautiful.
And to this day, it's somebody that I could pick up the phone and call and they answer and has become a mentor because their situation was they had 10 wireless like cell phone wireless stores, and they thought they were going to be able to buy the bar and have it for somebody else, like a nephew, to run, but it didn't work out. So it was holding them back from doing their regular business. So they were, they had a little bit of pain there too. So when they sold it to me, they were able to take their 10 stores to 70 stores over the next 8 years because they
Beautiful,
didn't have to worry about a bar in the background. So,
beautiful.
and I think that's what a lot of young entrepreneurs run into also, is they think that they're trying to buy a business. They don't realize that there's business owners on the other end, that their business is their worst nightmare. They just want to get out of it.
Yep.
Worse than you want to buy it. There's business owners out there that want to sell. And I think that's really important for somebody to realize too. Have you run across deals like that as well, where like when you're picking up more dealerships that,
Yeah. Yeah.
just somebody just wants to get out of there?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, there's no question, no question about it. We made have and continue to make deals that are incredible. And and the fact is if you are buying a business, the person that's selling the business absolutely wants to sell it. That's obvious, right? That's logical, right? And so, and then it comes down to, well, why do they want to sell it? And sometimes they have a health issue, or sometimes they have financial issues, or sometimes they're just ready to retire. They've had enough. They're ready to get out. And so we've had multiples of all that, right? And there's incredible opportunity out there doing that. There really is, but there's also incredible opportunity. You have to be careful. You really can wipe yourself too thin in terms of, like, if you have this pizza business and it's doing very well, I would, from accounting expertise, you want to make sure you have if you take your monthly expenses, that's what it takes to run your business. You want to have at least a 6-month supply of working capital, so that if something does go awry, you're able to pay your bills, assuming you go down to zero revenue. And actually the prudent advice will be 12 months. So anywhere from 6 months to 12 months of working capital. So if it costs you 100 grand to run the business, then you should have $600,000 cash, liquid cash in the bank, and hopefully 1.2 million if it's $100,000 a month. That would be very, very prudent. Now, what happens is once you get to the point of having excess cash as a business owner, then that's when you would want to pursue other opportunities. But until you have that really wired together, you've got to be careful, because you can go bankrupt buying business, believe me. And the idea would be, I'm going to buy this business and I'm just going to do what I do with my other pizza shop. Well, not necessarily. It doesn't work that way. It could be you buy this business and proceed to lose your butt. In the meantime, the old business, because you're not there anymore, it's not doing as well. And meantime, you don't have enough cash in the bank to cover that not doing as well. You could be bankrupt in a matter of a year buying another business. So you got to be very prudent when it comes to buying businesses. We did not buy additional businesses until we had enough cash in the bank that we knew we were financially stable to the degree that we actually were bulletproof. So we could withstand a punch in the face and would be okay. And so, because when you start a new business, it's definitely not going to perform maximally during that first period. I mean, it's a change of ownership, change of the guard. People quit. People, so there's a lot to it. So, yeah, I would throw caution to the wind when it comes to buying other businesses. But the point is, though, if you do buy a business, there's going to be a motivated buyer, and for a variety of reasons. And that's a great opportunity. And my children, since I've left, they bought 6 dealerships, 2 Chevrolet dealerships, 2 Chrysler Group dealerships, a Kia dealership, and they did what is called an open point on a Mitsubishi store, meaning the franchise was given to them because we're a very successful Mitsubishi dealership. So they opened up a brand new Mitsubishi dealership in the North Hills, out by Ross Park Mall. Actually, I don't know if that's the North Hills or not, but Ross Park Mall. And so they didn't buy that dealership per se, but they started a new business from the ground up. And yeah, it's definitely something you need to be aware of, that a new business or a bought business doesn't necessarily make money from the get-go. And if it's losing money, guess what that is? It's called a cash drain, money out the door. So your working capital is going down. That's why you want to make sure that you have enough working capital to cover those short-term losses. And I think a lot of people miss that I'm just giving you prudent. I'm 64 years old. I'm giving you prudent economic advice that just stands the test of good certified public accounting.
What kind of advice could you give our listeners out there about negotiating? I'm just dying to ask that question because as you navigate different deals and what kind of tips and tactics do you use when you try to negotiate?
Well, I think the first step is whatever it is you're buying. And it doesn't, we could talk about business. We could also talk about cars or real estate, whatever it is you're buying something, right? So I'm going to buy something. The first step is to do your due diligence and to figure out what in fact is this worth? What is this worth? And so to pick a number, let's say it's worth 100 grand. Well, then, I want to buy it so that if I have to get rid of it for whatever reason, that I can at least do that very, very efficiently. So I would say probably a good rule of thumb will be if it's worth 100 grand, I'm going to offer 70, and depending on the motivation of the buyer, they may get mad, they may get upset or whatever. They may say, you know what, I'm desperate, I want to get out, whatever. And they accept the offer or they come back with a counter offer. But I want to start with 30%, 30% below what I feel the asset is worth. And you have to remember when it comes, like people look at an asset, they say, well, the appraised value is 100 grand. Well, good. I mean, cash that in. There's an asset, there's an asset, and then there's liquidating that asset. And so just because it's worth 100 grand, according to the appraiser, doesn't mean you can cash it in for that. It sounds reasonable. It's like buying a car. Like you buy a car for 10 grand and well, you say, I got to get rid of this car. Good luck selling it for the 10 grand that you paid. That may happen, but most likely you're going to have to take a hit. And that would mean selling it for 8 grand because you're desperate. You got this, you want to get rid of it real quick. Now, if you have time to hold on to it, then maybe you do price it at the 10 grand. But the idea would be no matter what it is you're buying, to try to buy it as reasonable as you can from the perspective of money in, money out. So the lower you pay, the better. But also you have to be, as a businessman, you have to be thinking, like the whole idea of positive. Well, that's great, but you have to also be pragmatic. And so what I like to look at 3 scenarios when I'm negotiating a deal. What is the very best scenario? Okay, I got that. What's the middle of the road scenario? Okay, I got that. What's the worst scenario? So I really try to negotiate from that worst scenario experience because that may be where I end up. And so I want to be as close to negotiating based on the worst possible experience. And it sounds negative, right? But no, it's not. It's pragmatic. It's good business. And so, I guess to answer your question, buy low, sell high. Buy low, sell high. That's it. That's the formula. Buy low, sell high.
And let me ask you this question because you were talking about like the 30, 70%. What if somebody already has an asking price, but you think that, it's worth maybe, not even 70% of the asking price. Like maybe it's worth half of what the asking price. Like do you negotiate off their asking price or do you negotiate off of that price of what you're saying you think it's worth? Like
there is no asking price. I could care less about that. What's it worth? That's the market. What's it worth? What is this thing worth? When you're buying a business, you should have certified financial statements and then based on the operating or the net profit of that company, there's going to be a multiplying factor. So the company makes 100 grand a year. That company, to buy it, is worth, assuming the numbers are legit, the company's worth $300,000 to $500,000. That's the value of the company, exclusive of assets, right? And so with the assets, you got to look at the assets and probably like we got a pizza oven, it's worth 100 grand. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's not. It's been used. It's worth 50 grand. You got to be very pragmatic about what these assets are worth. They'll be on the books for these goofy numbers because they didn't follow proper accounting procedures in terms of depreciation. So you really got to have a hard look at the asset part of the business and then what is called blue sky. We call it blue sky. There's another number for it. It's a multiplier based on earnings. So I look at the earnings, assuming they're legit, the company's making 100 grand a year. To me, that company's worth 300 grand. probably 200 grand low end, 500 grand top end. And then it comes down to, I'm the buyer. So how motivated am I? How much do I want this business? And maybe I'm looking at the business and I see what they're doing. I think, I know I can turn this into $1 million operation. So that enters into my negotiations as well, because location. And I look at all these factors, and then it's buy low, sell high. But at some point, it may be that the asking price is, like you said, it's 70 grand. I have it all worked out in my head. It's worth 50 grand. But because I look at all the parameters of what I'm capable of doing, I may end up paying 100 grand for it. And it may be a great investment because there's the Jim Shorkey factor. I know what I can do with this. And so this happens right now in the real estate business in particular. People are asking 70 grand for a house, and somebody comes in and offers 80 grand. And you say, well, Jim, what about that appraisal thing? Yeah, you're right, but I really want this house, so I'm gonna offer 85. Like, well, you just said you were only gonna offer. Well, that's how that works, right? So, I want to buy low, sell high. That's my rule of thumb. But I have to look at the total package and be realistic in terms of what is the real value, which I just discussed, and then be realistic in terms of what do I think I can do with this. And let's face it, in the automobile business, I know how to sell cars. I know how to turn a profit selling cars. So I may edge my offer up based on the perceived opportunity that I have with this particular business. So that's a thing that needs to be really thought out, pondered. That's where you might call in your executive team. You get some different viewpoints, and sometimes you got to think about this, Nick. Sometimes the best deal for you, sometimes the best deal for you is no deal.
Yeah, I said a deal you don't do, right?
Walk away. Like, nah, I don't like, sometimes you have to follow your intuition. Say, yeah, there's something about this deal I just don't like. I'm not going to do it. I don't like the deal for whatever reason. So, there's a combination of factors there. But again, fundamentally, buy low, sell high.
Yeah, no, I appreciate those answers. I think you're absolutely right about the deal that you don't do is sometimes the best deal.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've had a few of those where you look back 6 months, you're like, man, what was I thinking that I was this close to doing that deal, But yeah, I think it's been a great conversation. I appreciate the back and forth, and I appreciate the insights. I think that's what a lot of times the young entrepreneurs miss is, what you're talking about is the experience that you've been through. You've been there, you've done it. As far as how you broke down the numbers part of it, and buying a new business and having that cash flow in the bank, like those are things that a lot of people they just overlook. I think you can get lucky. I mean, you can buy another business and get lucky, but for the most part, it goes back on you if you don't have that team set up to run the second store or the second location or the third location. If you don't have the team, if you don't have
people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you bring up a really good point. Sorry to interrupt you, but let's not forget, you can get lucky. You're right.
Yeah.
What's the other side of that, Nick? You can get unlucky, and unlucky can freaking ruin you, man. I mean, they'll take your house. I'm serious. It's nothing to mess with. I mean, if you got a good business and you're rocking and rolling, like, make sure you got the cash in the bank, and then make sure you do your due diligence. But don't assume just because you're Nick and you're the pizza guy that you're gonna, I'm just gonna go in there and I'm gonna make this happen. And sometimes we let our ego get in the way. I'm Jim Shorkey. I'm Mr. Car Guy. And you know what, Jim, you made a bad deal there. You just made a bad deal because you let your ego get in the way versus the true accounting and the analysis, and bring your team in and getting suggestions from them and making the right decision. And sometimes, as I said already, no deal is the best deal, because the thing is, you have to understand there's the opportunity cost of making a deal. So when you make the deal, the opportunity cost is that you're not going to make another deal. So think about that. So there's 3 deals out there, and you only know about one. You know about the A deal. So you do all your due diligence. You have ego in the way, and so you make deal A. But in the meantime, if once you make that, B and C are off the table, so you don't even know about them. So you say, I'm not going to make this deal because the numbers just don't add up. So I'm going to go looking for another deal. Oh, look at this B deal. Holy cow, this is the deal. This is really a good deal. And so there's an opportunity cost of putting your money over here. You can't put it over there anymore. It's over here now. So don't assume that saying no to a deal means you're done. No, you keep looking for deals, and just remember your original advice. You knocked on the door, they threw you out. You knocked on the door, they threw you out. You knocked on the door. The fifth one, 5. So you had 4 no deals, right? Those are no deals. And probably if you look back on it, it's like, man, if I'd have made any one of those first 4 deals, I'd be interested to go look. It's like, they were all terrible deals, but the deal I made was the best deal because you kept on going. So just because you turned down a deal doesn't mean you can't go for another deal and another deal. And it may take you a year, but finally, this one makes sense. Thank God we didn't do that deal a year ago.
Yeah. And what I found out too is now, when we're looking at these deals, I have a little bit better idea of what I actually want. The first one, you just kind of take what you can get.
You're desperate. You're desperate. Let's face it.
But now it's like, it may take 12 that we look at till I find one that I actually
Perfect.
like, but I always look. Anybody calls up and says, hey, I've got something for you to look at. Okay, let's go. We'll go look.
Good for you, man.
Yeah. And that's what you find is sometimes you don't think you're going to like something. You walk in, you're like, wow, you can envision what, that you can put your hands on it and make it into what you need it to be.
And that's the you part that yeah, you're right. So that has to enter into it as well. Like, hey, the numbers aren't quite perfect, but man, I just know what I can do with this situation. I know I can. So that has to enter into it as well. But just make sure you don't let the ego of I'm King Kong, I can do anything. That's where you can get into trouble. But as long as you're pragmatic about it and really look at it and say, I can do this. I know I can do this. I believe in me, desire backed by faith. There's no such word as impossible. I learned that from Napoleon Hill. And so I can turn impossible into possible by growing my desire, growing my faith. And I'm just looking at the situation and I really believe I can do it. And so that's what we did. And we were very successful at that. And we still are today. And I'm not even involved. Just like this little company called, Results from Thinking. I don't make any money on it. But I know inside here, I know that someday I will, because I'm bringing a value to the marketplace that is very strong. And have you ever read the book, The Science of Getting Rich?
Yes, I have it behind me. I actually I read it for the second time, like within the last 2 weeks. Yeah.
Well, so The Science of Getting Rich, the essence of it is bring more value to the hour. Leaving people with the impression of increase. You're getting paid $7 an hour. This is what you did, by the way. I watched your video. You were getting paid $7 an hour, figuratively speaking. You brought 15 worth of value and you got noticed. And that's it. And people always notice that. But the problem in our society today is like, I'm not working for $7 an hour. Why not? Why wouldn't you? It's not $7 an hour. It's the value that you bring to that hour. So you bring $15 worth of value to the hour and somebody notices you. And here's what happens. Like maybe your employer notices you, but if they don't, guess what? Nick happens to stop into this place of business and he's watching this lady and she's making $7 an hour and the floors are clean and sparkling and garbage cans are empty. She's saying hi to everybody. I'm watching her. It's like, I'm going to talk to this girl. We could use her. Holy cow. He goes and talks to her. Nick talks to her and says, hey, can I have a conversation with you? Yeah, sure. So you have the conversation. What are they paying you? $7 an hour. Man, I like what you're doing. I'll pay you $10 an hour. Sold. So now she's making $10 an hour. What's the answer for her? Bring $20 worth of value. Next thing you know, she'll be running your pizza shop. Am I right?
Oh, you're absolutely right. And I think that's a lot. As a pizza delivery driver, I was the absolute best pizza delivery driver.
I know. I watched the video.
Yeah. So then we say, hey, if you're a great pizza delivery driver, let's put you into management.
Here's your problem. You kept wrecking your car, you dummy.
Yeah, right.
I remember that.
Yeah, I absolutely did. And they weren't just my cars; they were my mom's cars. So
I know what else I remember about you. What else do you think I took away from when I watched your video? You wrecked your cars. Yep. You cried, man. You cried.
Yeah.
You cried. Absolutely. It was a very emotional thing for you.
It was.
You got to get emotional. You got your reason why has to make you cry. Your reason why made you cry. That's a big reason why you're the success that you are. Your reason why made you cry. And it was very obvious in the video. but you were a dummy. You kept wrecking them damn cars. You can't do that, man.
No, no. You know,
But you were you were the best pizza delivery guy ever, right? I mean, that was your thing.
yeah. And
There
you
you
know,
go.
and that goes back to, you know, like what I would hear from my grandfather is he'd say, it doesn't matter what you do, you know, if you're shoveling manure, be the best manure shoveler you can be. So, you know, and that's just the way that I guess I approach things. And I think the other part when you talk about, you know, the why has to make you cry, like I think this be, you know, you're a great person to bring this to, you know, when people hear like, oh, you need a why, and they'll say, well, I want it because I want my, you know, I want my kids to be successful. And then it'll be like, okay, well, why do you want your kids
Yeah.
to be successful? You know, dig that back one. And then it's like,
You got to
well,
keep going deeper and deeper and
yeah,
deeper until the tears start to flow.
yeah,
Now we have the reason why. You got to go deep. You got to go deep, deep, deep. So level 1, level 2, I want my kids to be, well, why? And you find out that the reason you want your kids to be successful because your dad beat you up for 45 years and just made you feel terrible, and you just don't, and now you're crying. And it's like, okay, we got a reason why now.
yes,
You know, and it's not, it's, you know, I just don't want my life to be the way, I don't want my children's life to be the way mine was. And here's how that felt. And we're getting deep, right? So the reason why has to make you cry. If it doesn't, then you're not going to be able to overcome the obstacles that are coming your way, right? They're coming. It's just, they're called setbacks, right? So if you have a strong enough, like for me, like I'm 1998, I'm bankruptcy imminent. My dad ran the business for 22 years. This is my dad. This is my father. He 2 years later, bankruptcy imminent. I couldn't imagine having that be my father's legacy. I couldn't imagine it. And I remember I was in front of the accountant. I said, these are my numbers. It was bankruptcy imminent. I said, this can't happen. This is my father. This can't happen. Did my reason why make me cry? You bet it did. A lot. I was a loser. So I'll never forget that. And I said, okay, if I can just get out of this, I'm never going to be arrogant again. I'm never going to be arrogant again. So I just kept reading, studying, and seeking expert counsel. But when I had the obstacles, and there were many obstacles, it was like, wait a second, bankruptcy imminent. This is way better than that was. We're doing okay. And I kept doing the push-ups. You know, Jim Rohn says you can't pay somebody else to do your push-ups, man. You got to do the push-ups. You got to do what this guy tells you to do. And the reason I did what he told me to do is because my reason why made me cry. So the reason why is what's going to drive you through the obstacles. And if you think obstacles aren't happening in the pizza business, you, my friend, are delusional, because they are. It's just part of the deal. And the answer is, like COVID-19, that was an obstacle. Absolutely. And so the people that executed what is called a pivot, P-I-V-O-T, they did very well during COVID-19, incredibly well, because they said, okay, things have changed. Now my reaction to the change is going to be, I'm going to do this. I'm not going to go to Harrisburg and protest the closing of my business. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to figure out what I can do to make revenue during this difficult time. And what I found, by the way, with extreme adversity like COVID-19, you know what I found out? There's 100 people I'm competing with, right? You check my math on this. 95 give up. So guess what? I've only got 5 competitors now, and I'm going to kick it out of the park. Adversity to me is just an opportunity to make a lot of money. I'm telling you, it works every time. The adversity that's an external adversity, everybody gives up. They just give up. They take their ball. They go home. They cut their budget. They cut their people. They cut their salaries. They just cut. I go aggressive, and I've made a lot of money during adversity. COVID-19, that meant nothing to the Jim Shorkey Family Auto Group as far as running our business, other than they executed a pivot, and they got very, very smart about how they ran their business, and they did very well. They did very well. They acquired during COVID-19. They acquired 2 Chevrolet dealerships during COVID-19. Like, what?
Yeah.
That's not bullshit. That's what I'm telling you. That's what they did. You know, so they pivoted. You understand pivot?
Well, absolutely. I think, as a restaurant, everybody's used to coming in. So all of a sudden they can't come in to eat. You know, we were the first ones with everybody does curbside pickup now, but we were first in Pittsburgh. Absolutely.
There you go. 100%. That's the pivot.
Yeah. And then the takeout, the curbside pickup, the no contact delivery. And we shouted it from the rooftops that we're going to do no contact delivery and we're going to do
That's
curbside
great.
pickup. And that was the
So
whole
how'd you
thing.
do?
Like, we did great. I mean, when you look at a normal restaurant and then you look at what we were able to do during COVID, we did fantastic. And I think a
Absolutely.
lot of it was, the very first thing we did was we first thing I did in my mindset was I said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and go back to that place that when I started my business. And the attitude I had was I will not fail. And I was like, that's what I'm going to do right now. I will not fail. This will not shake me. And like I mentioned, I picked up Think and Grow Rich. I picked up some other stuff that audio programs I always listened to, and started listening to them, started reading the positive books. And then I put together my team and I gave them that clear message of this is how we're going to fight through this. And we've had adversity, businesses have adversity that before COVID, and how did
Yeah.
you deal with them? We had adversity that when we went through it, a year and a half before that, it shook us to the core. But when COVID came, it was like, hey, wait a second. What shook us to the core a year and a half ago prepared us for this moment right now. And we were
Yeah,
able to use it as a teaching moment. Like that didn't shake us, and this isn't going to shake us. So
exactly. And that's
right.
the idea is that once you get this, what we're talking about here, it's like, oh, there's this new adversity. And believe me, I'm not happy about COVID-19. I know a lot of people suffered. So I don't take this the wrong way, but it's like, what the fact is, I'm just Jim Shorkey. I'm this little guy, and this COVID-19 is way bigger than me. But I look at it as, okay, this is an opportunity for me. Okay. And I have to pivot, right? And so what an entrepreneur is, this for you young listeners out there, this is an entrepreneur. Find a hole and fill it and charge for it and get real good at filling holes. And now you have a business. What do you do for your business? I fill holes. Great. There's a lot of holes out there. I didn't realize that, but there's holes everywhere. I'm going to be the hole filler. And then because you're filling these holes really well, somebody says, hey, would you mind, are you able to cut grass? My grass cutter quit. Yeah, well, man, science of getting rich, bring more value out. Yeah, I can cut your grass. Yeah, well, what would you charge me though? Yeah, I charge you $50. Oh, now I can fill the hole and cut the grass at the same time. And then she tells her neighbor, next thing you know, out of my filling holes during COVID-19, I've got this landscaping business. And then out of the landscaping business, I start cleaning out garages and meantime, but I'm not defeated. I wasn't defeated, right? Because I was out there being an entrepreneur, filling holes. There's so much opportunity out there right now for the entrepreneurial spirit. But the fact is that we want to get paid $15 an hour for a $7 an hour job and try to pass legislation for that effect. And I'm just not a fan of that. I think if you want to make $15 an hour, you go to work with $15 of value every single hour and you will get paid. And it's not going to take long. You'll get paid. I guarantee you'll get paid. Try it. Yeah. Try it. You know what I'm talking about. That's what you did. That's what you did.
I agree completely. I really do. I really appreciate the conversation. I really do, Jim. There's so many good nuggets in there that I think the listeners really going to appreciate it. Where can people get more of you if they want to get more of you?
Well, that's a slippery slope there. They may regret that, right? But anyways, it's resultsfromthinking.com is the site. And our online personal development program it's a course actually. It's workbooks and videos. It's called Rethink You. And I go live every morning, Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. and it's free. It's really, I just discuss, like I was discussing these books this morning and what I'm doing and trying to show people what I'm doing and that kind of a thing. So I go live and I would recommend people do that. The hashtags are hashtag Rethink You and hashtag self-development, and all the videos are there. Or you can go to, there's different ways to get a hold of me. But long story short is I had a lot of help along the way, and I just want to give back. That's why I'm here, is to give back. That's it. Fort Pitt.
I appreciate that. And then another question I want to ask you real quick is, I listened in on an interview you did, and you mentioned about the lady who lived to 118 and the video she did and the answer she gave at the end of what was it the most important part of her life? Could you?
Yeah, she said, what was the question? It was in Japanese. Well, she's at 118 and growing, right? And what an incredible video. It's 3 minutes long. You can find it on YouTube. I don't remember her name. I apologize, but 118-year-old lady, it'll come up, believe me. And so they asked her, they said, well, what is the most significant moment of your life? And she, in Japanese, and says, now, right now. And she's got this big smile on her face. And so I posted it out because, I mean, I know you think I'm crazy about 122. I know Jason thinks, people think I'm crazy, like 122, you're crazy, man, that's crazy. But the fact is, I posted out and said, well, what about this lady? And you look at her, I mean, she does math every morning. She plays this very old game that she's really, really good at. It's some kind of a strategy game. She does math. They showed her doing physical movement. She has like a walker. I mean, she's 118 years old. There's a walker with wheels, and she walked into this thing, right? And they set her down and they went through this process. But they showed the thing she did. Like, she did some kind of a Tai Chi type of a thing. And she's sitting down to do it, but she's moving, right? And she's glorious and she's lovely. And it's like 118 years old. Now, let me tell you something, Nick. 122, you say, yeah, that Jim Shorkey, boy, is he ever full of crap? You know, he died at 110 years old. He didn't make it to 122. Well, you know what? I made it to 110. Okay. So I don't know what the end game is. I have no idea. But I can tell you this, that lady, 118, no doubt. And she is living. So remember, it's not an aging goal. It's healthy, happy, terrific years, right? And so, so her greatest moment in her life was right now. That is cool. And I posted that out. I put it on a couple of my videos. And again, I'd recommend your listeners, just go to YouTube, 118-year-old Japanese lady. It'll come right up. It's 3 minutes long. If you think 118 isn't realistic, well, guess what? It is. Now, you gotta take action. You gotta take action. You know, that's what I'm working on. But I love this country, and I love talking to you, Nick and Jason, and just love it. And I want to be able to keep doing it. And if I don't take care of this cat or this stuff, then I'm not going to be able to keep doing it. I'm gonna pay the price. So you know, you ask you ask questions that sound like they should have like one word answers to them, but they don't. They're like, they have to be unpacked, you know?
Yeah, they do. And you know, when I heard you say that about now, I think so many times people get lost not living in the present, you know, whether it's the cell phone that distracts them from a family dinner, or, you know, spend all this money, go on a great vacation, and then you're off on the phone trying to solve problems or whatever it is. It's like, just live in the now, live in the present. And, I try to practice that every day, really.
Good for you, man.
Yeah. It's not easy, it's not easy.
It's not easy, but it's necessary, And so I do a phone fast. I do a device fast every day. My goal is to shut down the phone and the computer, everything, screens, no TV, nothing after 7:30. And typically it's closer to 7:30, but shut it off. It's gone, done. It's not good for, this is not good for my eyes pre-sleep. Whole nother thing we would have to unpack in another interview. But anyways, I shut down my devices, and I actually would get up in the morning, and first thing I do, turn my phone on. Oh, what did Nick say about me on Facebook? I'm gonna So I don't turn my phone on until 8 o'clock, and I do this here is it's called Elite HRV. It's an HRV check-in that I do, and that's again another hour-long discussion, but it's a health biomarker that I do called HRV, heart rate variability, and this tells me, am I ready to attack the day, or do I need to have what is called active recovery day? And so this morning, the best number you can get is a 10. I was a 9. So pre this interview, I went out and did what is called a HIIT workout, high intensity interval training, where I run very hard for probably about a minute or two, and then I walk, and I kept doing that. And I did it for about a half an hour, and I'm 64 years old, and I'm kicking butt, brother, kicking butt. But I'm doing this kind of stuff based on this extra counsel here, right here, right? And so I don't know how I got off on that tangent.
No, that's fantastic. That's such great information. I appreciate it. Now's the time we're going to solve the equation to your success. Are you ready for 7 rapid fire questions to wrap it all up?
Let's go.
Okay. Best seminar or teaching you've ever been to?
Well, I would be Think and Grow Rich. It's a book. I can't get a, and I went through all the videos and stuff with Napoleon. He was my man, and stuff led to that, led from that to other things. But no, definitely Think and Grow Rich would be, yeah, number one play.
Favorite item you've bought recently under $100?
Well, this here's a biggie. This is 140, so close. This watch here is my Garmin watch. It also measures HRV. It's very valuable, right around 140. $100 is a tough one. I can't think of one. I mean, I buy a lot of, like, I bought a kombucha yesterday for $5. You know, I love kombucha, but I like my devices. So I would say, give me a break. 140. This is a really good idea. So I love Elite HRV. It's really valuable because a lot of times, unfortunately, we overtrain as human beings, and we think, you know, like for example, you're working at the pizza shop. You don't count that as a workout. Let me tell you something, Nick. It is a workout, and you need to factor it in. And Elite HRV does that for you. So,
name an idol or hero of yours that you've met in person.
Well, I don't have. Geez. My wife is my hero. My wife is my hero. My wife is my hero. She's the reason why I've been married for 41 years. I love her dearly. She's taught me more than I'll ever teach her. She taught me how to be a nice person. And if anything, I've taught her how to be less nice, because I can be nasty at times. So yeah, my wife is my idol, and I have met her in person. I love her dearly. So I'm going to answer that with my wife.
Great.
Makes me emotional, by the way.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Favorite book to give as a gift?
Boy, it would not be Think and Grow Rich, because I think it would be inappropriate. But there's a book actually that, yeah, okay, yeah, Oh, the Place You'll Go by Dr. Seuss. That's my favorite book. Have you read it?
I have not.
Get it.
I will.
Read it.
I
Read
will.
it. It's a wonderful book. It'll make you cry, because it relates so much to life. And read it from the perspective of being that young man who walked into that pizza shop. And that book makes me cry every time. It's a great book. Yeah. Oh, the Place You'll Go. It's actually become a commencement book. And of course, that's going to change now, because Dr. Seuss is the worst guy on the planet, but not in my mind. So, you know, hey, I got to be controversial, right? Oh, the Place You'll Go by Dr. Seuss.
Thank you. Something you do every morning.
I have a routine. It's you know, I mean, I do a lot of stuff every morning. Okay, Amy and I do a coffee celebration with no devices. We make our coffee. We love our coffee. I put a mushroom concoction from Four Sigmatic in my coffee, and we just sit and old school talk and have conversations. I love my wife. She's my reason why. And so we call it a coffee celebration, and it's very near and dear to her. We actually go to bed at night and we think, I can't wait tomorrow to do the coffee celebration tomorrow morning, which is number one, a love of coffee, a mushroom concoction, and then a love of my wife, and the conversations that we have are just wonderful. So, yep.
Your personal mantra or favorite quote?
Desire backed by faith knows no such word is impossible. I love that quote. I believe that quote. It's valid. It works. The question is how to do it. I've explained how to do that. So yeah, that would be it.
And place you go to decompress and reset?
I go within. I don't have to be anywhere to decompress. This is a very important thing. So you're asking me hard questions. So there's two things. If you don't fix these two things, you're screwed, right? One is sleep, two is stress. If you don't fix these two things, you can eat all the broccoli you want, you're screwed. So you got to fix your sleep, you got to fix your stress. Bad sleep creates more stress, bad sleep. It's a vicious circle. So you have to figure out a way to decompress and to reduce stress, excuse me. And so I can do that here right now. So my favorite place to decompress is talking to you right now. Because if I'm stressed out, and I'm very, very relaxed. If I'm stressed out, then I'm in what is called fight or flight mode, which my body actually shuts stuff down in response to that. So decompressing is really, really important. But if you wait to go somewhere to do it, well, what about, like you just said, being in the now? So I'm going to wait for the spa treatment today to decompress. No, decompress right now because you're in a bad place. So you got to do belly breathing. You got to be on top of that. That's all I can tell you, man. You got to be on top of that. That's a very important one. I study it every day. I think about it every day, and I'm always decompressing, always. And I can do that right in this chair right now. When we're done here, I could close my eyes and do some deep breathing for 5 minutes and just.
Wonderful. Jim, thank you so much for being part of the show today. I think that was fantastic. I hope our listeners enjoyed it as much as we did. Thank you very, very much.
My pleasure. It's been a real joy and a real pleasure. And I love this stuff. I'll do it 1,000 more times. I told Jason that the last time, and Sarah. I love you guys. I love you guys. It's and this everything we've done here today, believe it or not, is auto suggestion.